Hello there. What are you doing on a ladder? You're getting a different perspective. Why are you on a ladder getting a different perspective? You thought that this would give you a different view? When people talk about getting a different perspective, they don't usually mean a view to look at. It's a different idea, a different way of seeing an idea. What is this idea that's troubling you? Why do some people not like Jesus? You know, some good people, but they just don't like the church. Well, I think there are two different groups of people in what you've just said. There's one group of people who don't like Jesus because they don't like the idea of a God in their life, which is sad for them. And then there's that other group of people who you just said don't really like the church, but they might still believe in God and follow Him in their hearts, even if they don't realise it. But when Jesus was wandering around on earth and preaching, before the crucifixion, so this is before Easter, he had just healed someone who had been born blind, and the religious leaders were really angry that he had chosen to do that, even though it was nice and a kind and gracious thing to do. Personally, if I'd been born blind, I would be really thankful and appreciative of whoever healed my eyesight. So would you. Right. And then people start saying, well, should you really be doing this, Jesus, if the religious leaders aren't happy that you do it? And Jesus told a couple of stories, yes, metaphors, and those metaphors try to explain his relationship and their relationship, as in the religious leaders' relationship, with God's people. He used the example of everybody being sheep and Jesus being the shepherd, because he's actually the mouthpiece of God, the role that religious leaders are meant to have, who speak for and on behalf of the deity. Well, Jesus being God actually speaks for himself. No, he doesn't actually need religious leaders, which hurts clergy's feelings sometimes. That's not funny. And so here he is saying that he, as the voice of God, as the mouthpiece of God, which is himself, easily walks over to where his sheep are, where his people are, and he can call out to them, and they can come in, and they'll follow, he can go in and out of where they're kept, and then they will follow him and live happily under his care, knowing that he will look after and provide for them. Whereas the religious leaders of Jesus' day were not always good people. And they are certainly not always good now. Some are mean, some are nasty, some are bullies, some do horrible and terrible things. Even though most are good and godly people, we have to accept that not everyone is. But Jesus speaks about those religious leaders who are not good and godly as being like thieves and bandits who didn't call to the sheep. They just sort of climbed in over the wall where the sheep were and just sort of took over being in charge inside the pen where the sheep are. So the sheep are hearing their voices, but in many ways they're actually trapped. They're trapped in a world where these other religious voices are controlling them and telling them what they can and can't do. But they're not godly, no. The godly voice is Jesus, who will lead them in and out safely. And basically will enable them to live their lives in a way that is refreshing and life-giving, and with a level of safety and comfort, even when they're trying something new. Sadly, for some sheep, some people who have only experienced those religious leaders who are thieves and bandits, they're still scared, and so they don't trust religious leaders or people claiming to be the mouthpieces of God. But in their hearts, they want to hear Jesus. So they're waiting for the shepherd to come to the sheepfold and call out, "Sheep, my people," and lead them out to live their lives with him. And I think there's a big difference between people who aim to be godly and know God and want to be part of his flock, and God will find them wherever they are, not always in our time, but he will always find them and bring them home. And there are those who are religious leaders who have scared and frightened and scattered those sheep. But they will be found by Jesus, and he knows who his sheep are, and he will look after them. And so those nice, caring and godly people on the inside who say they're not really into the church, they've probably had experiences of those thieves and bandits. And I will know the shepherd when he comes. Yes.